Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm back to break down this 10-game MLB DFS slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. Before we get into it, if you do enjoy the content at any point in this video, if you could please leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, I would greatly appreciate that. YouTube continues to tell me that about 70% of my audience is not subscribed. And if you just enjoy the content throughout this video, I'll be here all MLB DFS season long breaking down these MLB DFS slates to help you guys win some money and to help you guys become better MLB DFS players. So if you could take 1 second to do that, that would be awesome. Thank you for all the support so far. And before we get into the breakdown, usually I don't do this, but I had a pretty good night last night. I just want to kind of break down my lineup and my thought process to kind of maybe help you guys who are struggling with building lineups. I was able to come in second in the Monster, second in the Keystone, first in the MLB Home Run, second in the Upper Decker, second in the Knuckleball, first in the MLB Blast last night. So good night. Most notably the second in the Monster. And looking at my team and what I did here. This was on FanDuel. I do mostly play on FanDuel for MLB. I'll play on DraftKings as well, but I just prefer FanDuel's format. But overall, it's the same kind of concept. You want to play the pitcher that you're really confident in, and then your stack. And last night I had mentioned him in the video. I really liked the Yankees bats and the Oakland Athletics bats. And I was able to stack them up with Tyler Glasnow, who was my favorite pitcher on the slate by far because of his matchup taking on Texas. And this lineup actually fit in perfectly with the salary format on FanDuel. So one thing I did to change it up in tournaments is I played Kyle Higashioka, who hit 2 home runs, and he was only 2.7% owned. And this is just a perfect example of like playing the chalk without playing the chalk, because if you look at my lineup, I had Tyler Glasnow, who's 52% owned, and we're looking at the Monster ownership right now. Tyler Glasnow was 52% owned, Chapman was 20% owned, Gleyber Torres, Giancarlo Judge, all 29, 27, 42%. Canna, Laureano. So like if you look at my lineup overall, it's pretty chalky. But then what I did was I really liked Higashioka lower in the order, and since he was hitting in the 8th spot, he didn't get nearly the ownership, even though he rakes lefties and was in a good spot. So I did a pretty chalk stack, but I had one off, and Higashioka went out there and hit 2 home runs. So really good night for me, and I just wanted to kind of break that down for you guys to see, the thought process and some lineup construction that goes into my head when I'm building these lineups, and kind of share with you a good night for me. So definitely happy. And with that being said, let's go ahead and start breaking down this slate today. So as always, I'm going to go ahead and break down the pitchers that we want to target. Before I continue, if you are interested, I do offer premium content. It's linked below in the description. You get access to my cheat sheet, my power rankings, all the above. I had a lot of A's and Yankees on it last night, that kind of thing, and I'll guide you in the right direction. So, but as always, pitchers first. I like to go ahead and sort my sheet by K rate. It's fantasy sports. We get points for strikeouts, and the top guy on the slate today is going to be Shane Bieber, top option on the slate by far. He comes in with a 33.5% K rate, a 15.2 swinging strike rate. Against righties, he has a 33% K rate. And then against lefties, he has a 34% K rate as well. Just really elite stuff. We know what we're getting when we get with Shane Bieber. And then he is priced right now at 11.2 on FanDuel. As far as DraftKings pricing, they got him priced up to 10.7. So the most expensive on the slate, but for good reason. The Chicago White Sox team does strike out quite a bit. And with Shane Bieber's elite strikeout stuff, he's going to be the #1 option that we're really looking to get in our lineups tonight for sure. Second on the slate, we got Lucas Giolito in the same game. He has a 33.1% K rate, a 15.9 swinging strike rate. Against righties, he has a 33.2% K rate, and then against lefties, it's a 33.1% K rate. So really good across the board as well, and he gets to take on the Cleveland Indians. So the only thing that's a little unfortunate here is if the 2 top options are going against each other, so only one of these guys is going to get the win. But Lucas Giolito priced at 9.8 on FanDuel as opposed to 11.2 in Shane Bieber, so a nice little discount there if you need to go down a little bit. Have no issues with it. And then at 9.8 on DraftKings, same rule is going to apply there. I really like him as the second option on the slate. Third on the slate, we got Trevor Bauer taking on the Colorado Rockies. 30.1% K rate overall, a 32.2% K rate against righties, and then a 27.8% K rate against lefties. And it is not in Coors Field this time around, so you can add that into the equation as well. In Dodger Stadium, taking on this Colorado Rockies team that's really bad away from home. Got to like Trevor Bauer as well. A lot of really good pitching options out of the gate here to the slate, so a lot of options for you to choose from. He is a 339 favorite, biggest favorite on the slate, and has really good strikeout stuff. And then as I mentioned, the Colorado Rockies just aren't the same team away from home, so a lot of strikeouts in this lineup. You got Garrett Hampson, Tapia, Trevor Story, Charlie Blackmon. I think that Trevor Bauer can definitely go out there and have a big game tonight. So he's definitely on my list, third on the list. You got Brandon Woodruff taking on the Chicago Cubbies, who have been really struggling out of the gate. A 29.8% K rate overall, a 30.7% K rate against righties, and then a 29.1% K rate against lefties. Really good stuff from Woodruff taking on the Chicago Cubbies. I do think that he's a viable option to be targeting. And once again, another option on the slate that's just loaded with pitching options. I mean, a 143 favorite, he's 8-8 on FanDuel if you need to go a little bit from some salary relief perspective. And then on DraftKings, he's all the way down to 7-5, which I think is a pretty good bargain for him. So have no issues playing with Brandon Woodruff. Steven Strasburg taking on these St. Louis Cardinals. 29.5% K rate overall, a 29.8% K rate against righties, and then a 29.1% K rate against lefties. Very good stuff. Only problem is he's taking on a St. Louis team that doesn't strike out the most. I mean, once you get through the heart of the order, the strikeouts do start to pick up a little bit in guys down low, like a Dylan Carlson, a Paul DeJong, a Matt Carpenter. But at the top, not the most K rate. So at 10-4 on FanDuel, not really sure that I'm looking to go there with these other options around him. And then on DraftKings at 8-4, maybe you can go down to him as a discount. But overall, surprisingly, not really a lot of interest in Steven Strasburg when we have these other options we've discussed. And then you got Jack Flaherty in the same game, a 29.4% K rate overall, 33.17 K rate against right-handed hitting, and then a 25.2% K rate against lefties. So really good against right-handed hitting specifically, and when you're looking at the Washington Nationals lineup up and down, they do have a pretty good mix of it. I mean, through the heart of the order, Juan Soto, Josh Bell, Kyle Schwarber, all lefties, and then you got Alex V at the bottom of the order. But other than that, you're looking at all righties, so you can make a case for him. I just have a hard time going there with all these other options that we've discussed. And another option, well, we have two more options that I'm really looking to. Well, you could argue more, but in the price range and everything, breaking down this slate. I mean, we have those elite guys. If you have to go down, Luis Castillo taking on the San Francisco Giants, I think it's a really good matchup for him. There are plenty of strikeouts in this lineup, and this guy has really elite stuff. A 28.6% K rate, really good in the swinging strike rate, the ground ball, the fly ball. 28.4% K rate against righties, and then a 28.8% K rate against lefties. So just really dominant stuff, and the San Francisco Giants lineup is not one that scares us at all. And then you factor in that he's pitching in San Francisco. It's a great pitcher's park, so Luis Castillo, add him to the list of great pitching options. And then you have Jacob DeRizzi taking on Detroit, which is a team that strikes out a ton. Dylan Bundy taking on Kansas City Royals, which is a team that strikes out a ton. So I think that they're kind of the last options that I'm going to wrap things up with. And just Jacob DeRizzi, 26.5% K rate overall, a 25.1% K rate against righties, and then a 28% K rate against lefties. Pretty decent K rate stuff. I mean, definitely respectable enough to get the job done against the Detroit Tigers team. And then when looking at the Vegas lines, he comes in as a 197 favorite. He's 6-7 on FanDuel. Over on DraftKings, they got him priced at, let's see, 7-2. So pretty respectable option when you factor in the matchup and the fact that he's a pretty hefty favorite. And then I said, as lastly, Kansas City Royals, Dylan Bundy taking on them, a 24.6% K rate overall, a 30.1% K rate against righties, and then a 19.3% K rate against lefties. Dylan Bundy's is very splits heavy. We really prefer to target him against right-handed heavy lineups because that's where he performs best. And when looking at this Kansas City Royals lineup, they do have quite a few righties in there. You got Whit Merrifield, Salvador Perez, Jorge Soler, Hunter Dozier, Michael Taylor, all of the decent strikeout rates. So you can make an argument for Dylan Bundy as well. Priced at $9K on DraftKings, 9K on FanDuel. Over on DraftKings, he's at 8-8. So as far as my favorite options on DraftKings, Shane Bieber as a PIP option, Trevor Bauer as a PIP option, Lucas Giolito as a PIP option. Really like those guys. If I'm going to go down from them, the guy that stands out to me the most would be Brandon Woodruff taking on the Chicago Cubbies. And then Jacob Orizzi taking on the Detroit Tigers, and Luis Castillo taking on the Giants. You can make an argument for Pablo Lopez taking on the Braves, but they're just a good lineup. I don't really know if I really want to go there. So that's all for pitching. Transitioning over to bats. As always, I like to sort my sheet by skill interactive ERA, figure out the worst pitchers on the slate and which bats we can really be looking to lock in and target today. Worst pitcher on the slate by far is Antonio Senzatella, taking on the Los Angeles Dodgers tonight. That is not a good equation because, as we know, the Los Angeles Dodgers lineup is absolutely stacked. Senzatella cannot strike anyone out, doesn't have a good swing strike rate. The ground ball and the fly ball rate is respectable, but outside of that, he gives up a ton of slugging to right-handed hitting, and against lefties is where it gets really bad. 475 slugging, 359 WOBA. The ground ball and fly ball stuff still respectable, but slugging is a real issue against left-handed hitting, and it's an issue against righties. And it's an issue that he's taking on the Los Angeles Dodgers tonight, let's be honest, because this lineup is just absolutely stacked up and down. The Mookie Betts, Corey Seager, Justin Turner, Max Muncy, Will Smith, Gavin Lux. Love every single one of these guys. Definitely like the lefties the most. Corey Seager, Max Muncy, really going to like those guys tonight. And then Gavin Lux and Zach McKinstry. But, of course, you cannot leave the elite right-handed bats out of your lineup like a Mookie Betts, like a Justin Turner, like a Will Smith. If I were to rank those guys as far as priority, I do prefer to target Justin Turner against left-handed pitching. So I would go Mookie Betts number 1, Will Smith number 2, and then Justin Turner number 3 as far as the righties are concerned. Corey Seager and Max Muncy, I can't even distinguish. I just really like both of those guys, so definitely have some interest in them tonight. Second guy to target on the slate, we got Danny Duffy taking on the Los Angeles Angels. Really bad stuff across the board as far as ground ball, fly ball, K rate, all the above. Against righties, he really struggles. A 440 slugging, 36.9% hard hit rate, 321 WOBA, 43.3% fly ball rate, 34.8% ground ball rate. Really bad. Against lefties, he does pick things up, and he's not as bad at all. So we look to target these righties, and the Los Angeles Angels have a guy on their team you might have heard of. His name's Mike Trout, so I'm definitely going to want to be playing some Mike Trout tonight. David Fletcher, Albert Pujols, Justin Upton, Jose Iglesias, Kurt Suzuki, Juan Lagares, Jack Mayfield. I love that stack. Stacking up those righties against Duffy. It's 58 degrees in Kansas City, so not the best hitting environment, but looking at Duffy's numbers, he just really struggles against right-handed hitting, and you got to capitalize on his splits and his issues there. Kyle Gibson next on the list, taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. Looking at his stuff, ground ball, fly ball stuff's good, similar to Senzatella, but when you look at his hard hit rate slugging, a 429 slugging, 38% hard hit rate, a 329 WOBA against righties, and then against lefties, it gets even worse, a 468 slugging with a 354 WOBA. Really prefer to target the lefties against him, and the Tampa Bay Rays definitely do have some viable options tonight from the left-handed side of the plate. So you're looking at, Yoshi at the top of the order. Austin Meadows would be my favorite bat. Brandon Lau, second favorite bat. And then Joey Wendell, Brett Phillips. I mean, Austin Meadows and Brandon Lau specifically. Really going to like those two guys taking on Gibson. And you can definitely stack up, this order with Randy Arozarena and Yandy Diaz. That 2 through 5 range would be my favorite to stack up for sure. And then, Dylan Bundy has the next worst against these Royals, but I had already mentioned, I think I have more interest in targeting Bundy against the Royals, to be honest. And then Pablo Lopez, but really from there on out, there's not really any gas cans. The Angels are really my top stack alongside the Dodgers, like I mentioned, taking on those guys with issues. But then, as always, we like to go ahead and, figure out some guys that we can target from a splits perspective here. And one guy that really stands out that we can target as far as right-handed bats are concerned is Matthew Boyd taking on the Houston Astros. Ground ball, fly ball stuff's really bad, has an issue of giving up hard contact. Against righties, he gives up a 501 slugging, a 345 WOBA, a 45.5% fly ball rate, 33.7 ground ball rate. Really bad against right-handed hitting. And the Astros definitely have some guys that we can take advantage of playing tonight. Most notably, Alex Bregman. I absolutely love Alex Bregman on this slate. Rakes left-handed pitching. Altuve at the top of the order. Yulieski Gurriel, Carlos Correa, Miles Straw, Martin Maldonado can play all those guys. Really like Alex Bregman, number 1. Altuve, number 2. Carlos Correa, number 3. So feel pretty good about that stack tonight for sure. And then as far as anyone else, we're not looking at anything too crazy. I'd mentioned playing Jacob Orizzi against Detroit. He does have some hard contact issues as well, so maybe you could stack up a Detroit stack at a low ownership. You could play both sides of the fence, a 410 slugging, even up to left-handed pitching specifically. And Akil Baddoo on the Detroit Tigers. If you haven't heard of this kid yet, in the 7th spot, he still continues to really rake. He hit another home run last night. You could play Nomar Mazara, Heimer Candelario, Willie Castro, Robbie Grossman, and really stack this team up if you need kind of a cheaper stack, because Odorizzi can kind of give up some hard contact. Now, the Astros are known for, refining pitchers and really helping them, so keep an eye on his stats throughout the season, but traditionally speaking, we can really target him from a hard contact aspect. And honestly, that's when things kind of go downhill. Like, looking at the splits overall, Pablo Lopez taking on the Atlanta Braves does give up some hard contact against lefties. We had mentioned Dylan Bundy gives up some hard contact against lefties, taking on the Royals, so you can target those Royals lefties. But other than that, things kind of drop off really quick on this slate. I think it's pretty compact as far as who we're really looking to target. I think I gave you some good options to look at. One more guy that we can mention before we go, which I don't really feel all that excited about stacking against him, to be honest. Well, first of all, Trevor Bauer is a guy that has a really good name, but if you look at his numbers against lefties, he gives up some serious slugging and hard contact. So as a one-off, a contrarian play could be playing some Charlie Blackmon or some Tapia or some Ryan McMahon type of deal in this order. Chances are it's not going to turn out too well for you, but that is an option. And as far as looking at Vegas lines and like who's projected out for a decent day, the Atlanta Braves have a 4.66 implied total. The Toronto Blue Jays and Yankees game is a pretty decent total. A lot of that I think has to do with the stadium they're playing in, though. That Toronto stadium, that's kind of like a minor league effect. I'm not really looking to target Jameson Taillon or Ryu with the Yankees bats. And yeah, I mean, as far as the Atlanta, I mean, the one I wanted to mention was the Miami Marlins. So before I get off track here, I want to mention the Miami Marlins taking on Max Fried. He's really good. Ground ball, fly ball stuff's really good, but he does give up a 421 slugging with a 322 WOBA to right-handed hitting. So I do think that the Miami Marlins could be a sneaky stack in tournaments, and they do have some righties that can really rake off left-handed pitching. Most notably, Jesus Aguilar, Garrett Cooper, Brian Anderson, Adam Duvall, like that range. I actually really don't mind that stack at all. Traditionally speaking, like I said, Max Fried is good, and he'll probably keep the ball on the ground. But if they can get a few airborne, and they do have the right-handed bats to do it, I think the Miami Marlins could be a stack that people don't really like to go to a lot and could really pay off for you tonight. So like them. And then the Atlanta Braves in the same game, the last team I'll talk about, taking on Pablo Lopez. Pablo Lopez has looked really good out of the gate, but traditionally speaking, he does struggle a little bit more against lefties, like a lot more. He's really good against right-handed hitting, but against lefties, he gives up a 457 slugging with a 341 WOBA. So I do really think that Ozzie Albies and Freddie Freeman are great options in the 2 and 3 spot. And with that being said, that is my overall breakdown for this 10-game slate today. Before I let you guys go, I got to give you my home run call of the day. Let's get into it. And my home run call of the day today is going to be Alex Bregman taking on Matthew Boyd. I mentioned my interest in these Houston Astros righties. Matthew Boyd gives up a lot of hard contact, a 33.7% ground ball rate, 45.5% fly ball rate, 345 over to righties, a 501 slugging, and Alex Bregman just absolutely crushes left-handed pitching. On average, looking at Matthew Boyd's stuff, he usually throws about a 91 to 92 mile-an-hour fastball. Alex Bregman has a 1.154 ISO with an 852 WOBA against that pitch. Absolutely ridiculous. Over 12 batted ball events. Looking at the slider, which is Matthew Boyd's secondary pitch, we're looking at a 565 ISO with a 524 WOBA for Alex Bregman. And if he's going to go to a third pitch, he'll break out the changeup. And Alex Bregman features a 229 ISO with a 419 WOBA off that pitch against left-handed pitching. I love Alex Bregman in this spot tonight, and he is my home run call of the day. So there you have it, guys. Alex Bregman, get him in your lineups, and that is all for me in this one. If you did enjoy the content, if you could please give a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. That would be greatly appreciated. And then don't forget to check out my premium content link below in the description. You get access to my KJK DFS MLB package. You get my power rankings, my cheat sheets, my statistical sheets, all of the above. I'll give you a little bit of a preview on the screen throughout the video, but there's a lot more behind this paywall, so check that out. Not to mention, you can join the Discord chat, the Google Sheets, ask me questions all the way up to lock, and I'll be here to help you out. So with that being said, wish you guys all the best of luck tonight, and we will see you in the next one.